Welcome to my little space where heart and hook stitch up a place where we can together make a refuge safe for all our sake. In all seriousness, though, these little finger covers are awesome for me. When I was 9 years old and I was taught to crochet, I was taught this underhanded grip where I kind of just press the hook into the side of my first finger here. And over the years, it's developed into like a little divot here where it sort of has worn down the cushion between my skin and the bone, and it sometimes gets painful, really only when I'm doing something with a tight tension like I do on these dolls or most of my dolls. So I'll go back and forth between holding the hook here and holding the hook here. But then recently, both of these places started to get sore. So I found these on Amazon, which I bought before the boycott, by the way. And it was like, I think a pack of 12, and they were pretty inexpensive. I know they look funny, but there's another funny story in regards to this. When I got the email from Amazon saying that my order had been shipped, it showed a little blurred out box of the item, and it said it was censored for privacy. It was these little finger condoms, and they thought that they should blur it out. In my last video, you saw me making these panels while on my camping trip. Most of these were made on that camping trip over the weekend, and now I've stitched them all together, a beige panel and a gray panel, and these two of these pieces make up a top and a bottom for a mouth puppet. I have two different kinds of mouth puppets that I sell. At the moment, I have one that I need to finish that has been purchased and isn't made yet, that needs the teeth. And the other variety I do is with tongue ties. I may be in the process of trying to redesign that one a little bit. We'll see how that goes. But for now, I've got these panels for 7, or these pockets at this point, because they're stitched together. See, this is enough for 7 puppets, and it could go for either kind of puppet, the one with the teeth or the one with the tongue ties. And next, here's the yarn I'll use for the lips. So now I need to make 14 lips. Here I show I've made 6 of the puppets worth of lips and attached them. The 7th set I've set aside because I'm going to show you stitching all the parts together for one mouth puppet that I have to ship out. This is Nana Sarah, named after Congresswoman Sarah McBride. I showed you in the last video. However, this is my actual photo shoot, and I thought I would be cute here and show how she just disappears into the flowers. See how she blends in. I could have also titled this section Photography Tips. Here I'm cleaning up, raking up this little patch of my yard. This is where I typically do most of my photographing of garments. I like this spot because it seems to be perfect lighting when it's in the morning golden hour. It changes throughout the year, but if you don't know about golden hour is 1 hour past the official sunrise time or 1 hour before the official sunset time. And sometimes, depending on the time of year, when I go out for the morning golden hour, the position of the sun behind me coming through the trees can make some really cool effects with sun rays coming through. I don't always go for that because it will change the lighting in my pictures, but sometimes I get really cool pictures like this one. All right, I was super stoked about this. I had somebody purchase one of my Flying Spaghetti Monster Christmas tree ornaments. However, they wanted to wear it as a necklace because they will be officiating a wedding. So I used some thin gold yarn and I crocheted the chain. So I mentioned earlier that I set aside parts for one mouth puppet that I need to stitch together. That's what I've got here, except I've already stitched together the gray and the beige panels for one puppet. Here are the lips. And I also have the teeth ready, the tongue, and the hinges, and I recorded myself stitching the whole thing together, even though all the parts are independently already crocheted. The parts that I've already made for 6 other puppets worth of the panels stitched together to make the pockets and the lips already sewn on, I've put away for now because I can finish those later as either the variety with the teeth or the variety with the tongue ties, depending on what sells and what I need to have available next. And I thought I'd give you a bit of storytelling now too. I always forget that the first dolls I actually made back in 2011 were a Mario and Luigi that I had found free patterns for online, as well as a Link doll, the little tiny Link doll, as well as I came up with my own design for 2 little miniature dolls for David Bowie and Michael Jackson. Those ended up kind of becoming the precursors to what I typically do now for my mini dolls, many of my political figure dolls that are in miniature size. However, what I oftentimes reference as the first doll I ever made is the first like dolly for a little girl that I ever made was for my niece. She's black, and her mom was saying that dolls with brown skin are just a rare find. This was back in 2011, like I said. So very early on in my time beginning to sell on Etsy, I made a doll for her. I photographed it and made a listing saying that I could make more like it or take custom requests. And at the time, Etsy actually really didn't have many brown skin dolls on the platform at all. And I very quickly started getting a lot of orders for them. I believe the first custom one I made was based on a little girl's drawing of herself in a rainbow striped dress. It was either that or the character of the Princess and the Pea from Rachel Isadora's book on the fairy tale. I honestly don't remember which is the first photo of a real person I turned into a doll, but I really like Facebook memories for this reason. I've made so many, I can't readily see in my mind all the ones I've done. Over a year ago, I did a rough count on how many custom doll listings I've sold on Etsy, and it was somewhere around 190. So we're probably beyond 200 at this point. Um, and that doesn't even count when I make a doll of a famous person and then I make a listing for that particular portrait doll and then I sell a whole bunch of that over and over again. For instance, I've sold, when I did the rough count over a year ago, I had sold 250 Bernie dolls just on Etsy, not counting the many I sold in person when I was fundraising for his campaigns. But because I've made so many unique custom dolls after real people, I really enjoy watching as memories pop up on Facebook and I'm reminded of all these people I've created doll versions of. So that's why I enjoy putting them up together in reels every several days in my social media to showcase sort of the history of what I've done and how much I've done. Back then, because brown skin dolls were rare to find on Etsy and I was one of the only ones at the time making them, it gave my shop the visibility it needed to start succeeding on Etsy early on. When a props person for a movie production company went on Etsy to look for black dolls, she found my listings. So you can see my dolls on the big screen in the 2014 movie No Good Deed and also the 2018 movie A Wrinkle in Time. That same person kept returning to purchase from me for other productions, the movie Widows, the movie Little, and the TV show called Rectify, but I was never able to spot them on screen. Nowadays on Etsy, there are so many more options. There are many more doll makers making a variety of skin tones and representing lots of different kinds of people. Um, this is a really, really cool part of my history. When I went on to Instagram, now I was really late at getting on Instagram. So I had just been doing Etsy and just trying to sell to people there, and people were finding me on Etsy. And aside from that, my only social media presence was really Facebook. I was definitely late to the game on Instagram, and that probably hurt me in the long run. I'm still working on building it there, but when I went and joined, I went and found a bunch of doll makers who had kind of made it big on Instagram, at least it looked like, tens of thousands of followers and such. And one of these ladies, Aniqua of My Kinda Thing, it's my underscore kinda underscore thing on Instagram. Anyway, I just happened upon her her page, and I started watching some of her live streams. And one day she noticed my name on her feed, and she started talking about me, and I was shocked. Um, Near the end of that live, she says that whenever she gives her origin story, she tells how she could only find two people on the internet crocheting black and brown dolls, one of them being Aileen. And the other person was just swapping out the brown yarn for the skin color, but she liked that I was actually doing something different with the hair, kind of trying to recreate the look of the princess from the African Princess and the Pea book by Rachel Isadora with the Bantu knots. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to Aniqua. It was just super cool for me to find out that this big prominent doll maker, when she first went to see what kinds of black and brown dolls were being put out there, she only found two crocheters, one of them being me. And so she started making dolls herself, and now she has a huge presence online, a huge business for herself, and I wish her well. She's making waves with her own doll creations and teaching others to create magic, all while constantly promoting acceptance and pride and representation. She's absolutely a force in the world now, with her own yarn line and a podcast and courses. If you've ever seen Skein Tones by Lion Brand, that was Aniqua. She partnered with Lion Brand to get those made. I'm humbled and honored that I get to be a part of her origin story. I also get to be inspired now by her own designs. So, cool stuff. And now at this point in the video, I'm almost finished stitching together this mouth puppet, which when I filmed this was the day that I was shipping it out. So I had this, the necklace with the flying spaghetti monster, and one Bernie doll order that I had previously made. So I set those up, took a picture of them together as per my usual, and they all shipped out that same day. And of course, as I stitched this, I trimmed all my ends into tiny little bits. And now to try to make all my customers feel special when they first get their package in the mail. All right, well, welcome to Under My Bed. I keep yarn stashed down here. Now, I have other places for specialty yarns, but both of these bins are full of various types of specialty yarns, including fuzzy yarns and pretty, like ribbony yarns. So what I wanted to do is take you along the journey with me of choosing, I think, 3 different yarns for the purpose of crocheting another vulva, because the one singular one that I made a couple years ago, I think, it just sold. So why not make another one? I have more of those metal rings that I used, and actually I think this is a good one. I want to use this one as maybe the base of the vulva. So we can get a lot of colors in there. So I'll stick that up on the bed. We've got some fuzzies all over the place, but you know what? The blue is calling to me. And I can already see one on the top here that I kind of like with everything else. Check it out. How do those look together? Ooh, they actually look really good with my bedspread. I think I'll use those. Well, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. It would mean so much to me. And I thought I'd show you fresh off the hook items. These came off the hook um, this past weekend when I was camping. You saw me, if you saw my last video, doing a tutorial on how to make these gloves. I've made these out of the yarn that I've spun from my own yarn scraps and then plied with cotton thread. This is the last of that batch. And you can see that it does have some bulky sections and some finer sections. Like it gets really skinny right there. But overall, I would call it a bulky weight yarn. I don't have one of those little tools. I need to get one where you wrap it around and see how many wraps per inch. Then you can say what weight yarn it is. I'll be getting one of those soon. But I wanted to also show you, just last night, I spun a bunch more yarn scraps from that original pile that I showed you in my first video. This is what's left. So I'm going to keep working through that little by little, and I felt like doing another batch last night. I timed myself, and it took me 3 hours total from the brushing out of the scraps, laying them on the blending board, making it into a roll lag. I did just one really fat roll lag this time. And this is the yarn that I spun a single. I spun the roll lag into a single, and then I plied it. This morning I finished it with this cotton thread. I'm still going to do the finishing process where I soak it and thwack it. But overall, I believe this one is a much skinnier, finer yarn. And I think it's really, really pretty. It's obviously going to relax a lot when it has a lot of twist in it still. It wants to twist up on itself. So it'll, right now it's angsty. See it like, I don't know if you can tell like how fine that is. Focus right here. Focus right here. There's obviously still lumpy sections and fat sections, but overall it's quite fine, quite small in weight. So here, I'll roll it back up and I'll show you just on wrapped up on the spindle. It is way, way more refined. So each time I spin more, it gets, I'm just getting better at it. Part of it is I'm being more meticulous in making sure I brush out all the little chunks of yarn, really get it down to the fluff. So 3 hours to make this much. This will, I think, expand to look like a little bit more after I take it off and finish the yarn. And then I think I'll go ahead and just make another pair of gloves, but I'm going to adjust the pattern. I'm pretty sure I'm going to want to use a slightly smaller hook and probably do like 2 rows here above the thumb, maybe add an extra row down below the thumb because it's going to be a smaller stitch, I believe. So I'll show you that when I get to it as well. I made another Nana ahead of time. Today is Friday, and this one will be released in the following Wednesday, which will be the day after this video goes live. But this one has some subtle stars stitched on it. The whole thing is stripy, except for the boobs. I made them a little less stripy than usual to help them stand out. And this one is named after Tim Walls. So this is Nana Tim. For this one, the rule that I created for myself is I arranged my yarn scrap balls in order of size, smallest to largest, and I took 3, the very first 3, the 3 smallest, and I alternated 1 row of each. And I just kept going until I ran out of one of them. And whenever I ran out of one, then I introduced the next, and I kept going until I ran out of that one. That's why you have a lot more consistency of color throughout. So like this blue, when I introduced it here, I still have some. I didn't finish running out of it. So that's why you see it all the way through the rest of the arms and the head. And yeah, Nana Tim. And she is number 21. in my series of Nanas Against Trump and Fascism, and it's the 21st one that I've made, which represents 21 weeks since we found out he was elected. That's when I started this project. So not since he became president, but since we found out he was elected. And then the other thing I was going to show you was, I already showed you these. These are the yarns I'm going to use to make another vulva. I think it would be really nice to make some vulvas out of my own hand spun yarn too. But first I'm going to do another pair of gloves just so we can compare. We can see the difference. So this is the ring that I have. I have a bag of a few more of these. I initially bought them as a pack of, I don't remember how many. So I have more of these. I have larger ones too, and I've made only one wall hanging with one of those before, and now I'm going to use this to make another vulva. That'll be fun. So I'll show you that a little bit too. So that's what I've been working on, and that's what's coming up. Let's see. Oh, I am going to do a photo shoot for these, I think, separately from the first pair, and I'll have them both listed separately in my shop. These are a little bit less bulky, a little bit more low profile, and the next pair I think will be even more so. Even so, it's still, these ones are still very thick, cozy, warm. These could use another row longer as it is here, but the way that they are very easy to wear if you need like lots of finger movement. So for like playing an instrument or something, that would be useful. Like I could totally play my violin wearing these. I started recording this and I realized I had taken off my mic. So I'm back and I've gotten started on this. I wanted to show you that without a proper tool called a niddy noddy, you can wind up your yarn on yourself. So I'm wrapping it around my arm and my thumb, and this will be for the purpose of soaking it, because if I rolled it into a ball, it wouldn't soak all the way through. The center of the ball wouldn't soak properly. So we want it in a nice sort of loose skein or wrapping of the yarn. I'm not sure if there's a proper term for this. And with what's called a niddy noddy, you would wrap around it. You would wrap the yarn around it similarly. And I think that that's how a lot of yarn makers can count how much yardage they've made based on how many wraps around the niddy noddy. I'm not bothering to calculate yardage right now. I'm just going off of weight and time spent for the purpose of, for my own purposes, so that I know how much time I'm actually putting into this if I'm going to sell any of it. It's getting kind of tight on my thumb. Okay, whoa. So there's the end. So now, here we have it. Once again, you can tell it's angsty. It's got all this energy pent up in it. All this twist energy that it will relax after I do the finishing process. So now I'll take that same thread that I plied it with and I'll tie it around in 3 spots so that it stays nice and neat and it doesn't tangle up on itself. And I'll go do the soaking and eventually the thwacking and let it dry, and I'll show you when I'm finished, and we can kind of compare between the latest stuff and the older stuff. And maybe there's not as big of a difference as what I think, but we'll see. I thought I'd tell you a bit about how I do the pricing in my Etsy store, because it's quite different. I haven't seen anybody else doing it. However, I have had somebody reach out to me and ask me if they could copy my system. And I said, of course, please go ahead, because it's been working for me pretty well. I have basically a choose your own price type of system within a particular range for each item. I was inspired initially by seeing how Radiohead released their album called In Rainbows. They put it up on their website and they let people choose whatever price they wanted. I'm not going that extreme. However, with their experiment, I think they ended up coming out saying that after their initial batch of sales, however long they sold the album that way, some people paid a lot, most people paid little to nothing, but it averaged out to be about the proper price of a CD per CD that they sold. So, which is really, really cool. And I loved the idea. that people who really couldn't afford it but really wanted it could get it. And the people who money is not much of an object and they wanted to kind of help out cover the cost of people getting the album for free or very cheap paid a lot more, and everybody was happy. So I took inspiration from that, and I decided I would let my customers choose basically my wage for that particular project, whichever item they're buying, whatever made to order item or already made item they're going to buy from me. So the explanation that I give in all my listings goes like this. My prices have gone up and down over the years as I've tried to negotiate a compromise between paying myself an okay wage and having my items be affordable. I decided that I'd give you the opportunity to choose your price. My bottom price will pay me $10 an hour. I have it topped out at $27.32 an hour, which is considered a current living wage in California. $16.50 an hour is California's minimum wage in 2025, and $19.77 is the average wage for crochet artists for hire in California, and price points that reflect those rates are marked as such. I greatly appreciate any sale regardless of what you choose, and I thank you in advance for understanding my desire to fully honor my work and my time. If you can't afford a price in the upper range, please don't feel bad about selecting a lower price option. You are my support base, and I don't want to lose your business. Also, if you would like to reserve judgment on whether you'd like to pay more than the bottom price, you can always just order using the bottom price and send any additional to me after receiving the item. You can find me on PayPal, Zelle, Cash App, or Venmo. I do have a Patreon, and you can find me there as aileensoprano. Supporting me with $5 a month gets you exclusive early access to video clips before they make it into eventual YouTube videos of my behind-the-scenes process, as well as other projects and ramblings. And you can cancel anytime. Thanks. And then I put a heart emoji. So that's what I have in all of my listings, except for patterns. Patterns, I just have a set price. Most of them are $5, I think. And most of the time people are confused because what I did is I set up my listings, my non-pattern listings, to have a drop-down box where the customer has to select a number, and the options are given as numbers. I just put all of my price points at whole dollars, and so I put the number and then it corresponds with a price. So if they select, say, 40, it shows that that's going to cost $40. So then a lot of people get a little confused and they write me a message. I just copy and paste that note and I tell them it's fine. Most people miss that you can expand that item detail section. Here's the explanation. It's a choose your own price thing. No stress, no pressure. I appreciate every sale. And I've gotten a lot of really, really great feedback. People who shop on Etsy tend to be people not looking for like the cheapest deal. They're looking for something handmade and unique. A lot of people have really appreciated that they have the opportunity to pay me more, especially with the transparency of seeing what my wage would be at what price points. I think people appreciate that. So I have had people like regularly, my customers purchase at all different points in my range of price options. So it's been really, really great for me. The calculations I do it's a little extensive, but it's not crazy. I just calculate time for that particular project multiplied by the hourly wage. So I'll multiply it by 10 for the $10 an hour wage. And that starts the bottom of my range of prices. And then I also add in the cost of materials, and I add in all the Etsy fees. So the 20 cents for the listing, I multiply it by 1.065 to get the 6.5% transaction fee that Etsy charges. And then I also add in, for the base price, I add in $7 for shipping for most items, and then for big or bulky items, $10 to cover shipping. And then I label all of my items as free shipping within the US. So I do include that in my prices to cover my bases there, but I know people like to see free shipping. And that covers my bases for the shipping. And then I do have it adding on an extra charge when somebody outside of the country purchases. And then look how cute I was here. My mom thinks I was about 4 years old, and look, I've been creative from the start. Here is the second pair of gloves I made from my hand-spun scraps yarn. This one is the yarn that I made previously, my second to last time making yarn. So you can see what that looks like. And then this is my most recent batch. I don't know that you can really tell a difference, if there is a difference to be seen. Oops, let's see. On the top, I have the older pair or older strand. On the bottom, I have the newer strand. And I think I can tell from just this comparison that the newer strand on the bottom looks a bit finer overall. I'm quite pleased. So if I think I'm going to make another pair of gloves right away with this stuff. But what I'm going to do is, because each batch seems to change slightly and get slightly more refined. This is way more refined than my earliest batches. This is a slightly more refined than this. So what I'll do is I'll start the next pair of gloves with this, the oldest stuff, and then finish it with this. And we'll see if that's enough. I'm not sure if that will be enough. This pair of gloves was made with older than this yarn, beginning with older than this yarn, and then finishing with this yarn. So as you can see, it blends well enough, I think. I couldn't believe it. I got an order for a panda hooded scarf with pockets, and it was for a specific pattern that somebody else wrote. So I bought the pattern, and I needed to go find some yarn. And I just, on the off chance that Joann got a new shipment in from their warehouses that had, you know, maybe some yarns that would work for this design, I went over there, and sure enough, they had several full shelves of yarn, more than the last couple times I went. And not only that, but they even had this white fuzzy yarn that's the exact same brand that the pattern called for. So that was pretty cool. So now here I'm just showing you a little bit of real-time crocheting. This is going to be the top part, the hood. And at this point in my video creating and editing, I'm just going with whatever I need to do next. So since I have a few orders, I'll take you along the journey with me, and you can enjoy some watching me crochet and create and listen to some music. By the way, I will be including in my description box below links to all of the products that I'm making, either in my shop that I have available. Also, for example, for this, I'll be including a link to where you can find the pattern from the maker who created this pattern that I'm working on, and all sorts of other things and people that I want to credit and link to throughout this video. I will include all of that in the description box below. And if you're still watching my long videos at this point, I just really want to thank you. I'm putting a lot of effort into this, and it means a lot to me that you're sticking around and watching, and I hope that these can continue to be entertaining. All right, I went ahead and crocheted all the separate pieces for this pattern. I will put the link to the pattern that my customer had found and I purchased to make this in the description box. So I've crocheted all the pieces. They all just need to be stitched together. So here are the ears, the hood, the scarf, and it's got pockets. So first I'll stitch these on and then I'll stitch the pockets on, and it's going to be super cute. All right, well, I sold one of these Ruth Bader Ginsburg collars, which, by the way, I do have my pattern for this up for free on my blog, which is not much of a blog. There's not a whole lot on there, but I do have two variations of this, one with this medium weight yarn, and one I give instructions for how to do it with crochet thread as well. So here I've made 3 already to have on hand, and I just sold one. So what I like to do is I like to wait until one sells to block it. So here I'll be soaking it in pretty warm water for a bit, and then I'll block it and let it dry, and then it will be ready to ship. And Dot, friend, Lily. I thought I'd introduce you to the other pets in this house right now. This is Friend. She's also a rescue. There's Willie again. Dot, come here. And this is my cousin. She's my uncle's dog, so I call her my cousin. Dot, Dot. She's a little nervous about the other pets, so she likes to keep her distance a little bit. She's so sweet. So sweet. They could be the best of pals if she stops being so nervous. All right, so I'm going to wring out my collar. Well, not wring it, just squeeze it. This is made with acrylic yarn, and they say you can't really block acrylic, but what I'm doing is, part of what I'm doing is actually killing the acrylic with the pretty warm, hot water. It should help the acrylic to lose some of its sort of stiffness and help it to have more of a drape. So then I just pin it all the way around, and I like to use this ironing board because it's really easy to pin into, and the little foam pad that's under this fabric here, I think allows for air to go through pretty quickly, pretty easily, so that it dries pretty quickly. So for each little point of the design, I stretch it out a little bit and I stab it with a pin straight into the top of my board. I've got the dogs with me out here, so you may see them wandering by. Dot! She's over in the grass, the tall grass that hasn't been mowed. My dog doesn't really like to be out here. Willie doesn't like to be out here when it's cold, except for when I'm out here. If I'm out here, he wants to be out here. So I'm gonna bring this more over here. And it's been raining this morning. There's not any direct sunlight right now. It's pretty cloudy right now, but there should be some direct sun in just a little bit. And when that happens, that will help this to dry. Oops. This really goes the whole width of my board here. Hey, Willie. Willie says hi. These collars work up so quickly. I think they take about an hour to make each. So there you have it, all pinned out. And now I'll go move it into what will be the sun in a little bit. I got another order for one of these Birdie Sanders plushes, so I went ahead and grabbed a body with a set of wings, a beak, the hair, and the feet, and some yarn to do the eyes and the glasses embroidery so that I could finish one to have ready to ship this coming week. So I'll take you along the journey of stitching this together. I'll speed up most of it though. Crochet hooks and colors bright, crafting wonders day and night. Join the fun. Come see it through. Subscribe and I'll create for you.